Now, Nasarawa State is emerging as a major center for Nigeria's lithium revolution and agricultural growth under Governor Abdullahi Sule's leadership. Massive investments have turned Nasarawa into a hub for lithium mining and processing, moving the state beyond raw mineral exports to refined products that create jobs and technical skills locally. The state now hosts multiple processing plants, including facilities with daily capabilities in the thousands of tons, with a 6,000 metric ton plant ready for commissioning. In agriculture, Nasarawa has leveraged its fertile land to scale farm production. The government supports large-scale cultivation, including irrigated rice farms measured in thousands of hectares, boosting food security and rural livelihoods. Together, the lithium boom and agricultural expansion are reshaping Nasarawa's economy, creating jobs, improving infrastructure like roads and utilities around mining communities, and aligning the state with global energy and food trends.
Now, today on Daybreak, we welcome live on Daybreak Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State to discuss key developments in the state and the nation. So, thank you for joining us, Governor Abdullahi Sule.
Thank you very much.
Now, going into the heart of the story, the president at the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week made a strong declaration on mining that extractive merchants will no longer be business as usual for them, that there must be value added in terms of job creations and overall economic reality of the country. You are in the middle as a power broker in this scene, as a host of this mineral-rich lithium, which people describe as the new gold. So how are you redefining these terms of engagement in your state?
Well, thank you very much. I think the first thing is to appreciate Mr. President for confirming what the Honorable Minister, Dele Alake had said earlier. Dele Alake, during the groundbreaking of this same factory, we're talking about 6,000 metric tons a day of lithium processing, had made a similar statement that the federal government will no longer tolerate, just taking our raw material out without processing it here. And by Mr. President confirming that same statement, in Abu Dhabi, I think that's the best New Year present for Nasarawa state government. So we are taking it seriously, and we are also insisting. It started actually with an executive order which we had about 3 years ago, when we said that nobody should be coming to Nasarawa state to just be taking our raw material out, especially lithium, which keeps going up every day. In fact, lithium now is roughly around $100 per ton. It started around $30-something per ton. So, and you can see the opportunities that are opening up for Nasarawa. Even yesterday, being a Sunday, I was having meetings, here in Abuja, critically on lithium processing and some of the companies that are still interested in their expansion. So I think it's a wonderful thing that Mr. President has said that, and we are also going to ensure that what Mr. President said must be implemented, because that's the only way that Nigeria and the communities where these minerals are will benefit, from it.
Well, your state is, as you have mentioned, one of the states with, large deposits of minerals, including lithium, which is a well sought after mineral across the world. And we often focus on mining and the money that accrues from minerals without looking at the negative impact on the state, on the villagers, on the communities that live in those places. Sometimes they're just chased off their ancestral homes in order for the government to take over mining sites. What safeguards are in place to prevent environmental degradation, land displacement, and water contamination in communities where this is going on?
Yeah, fantastic question. First, maybe you have to understand who A.A. Sule is. I came from the oil and gas sector. I work in the United States in the E&P sector, and then I came back to Nigeria and work in that area. So one of the things that we did is to ensure that we are duplicating what has really happened in the oil and gas sector, especially in Nigeria, in the area of joint venture and in the area of community development. So the aspect of even saying that we are going to be processing here rather than taking the raw material out, it tells you that, one, we are very interested in the reclamation of the land. You know, usually this lithium that you are hearing, if you take about 100 trucks of the same lithium out of ground, only about 7 trucks of that is the real lithium. 93 trucks are not going, it's not lithium. But by processing it here, that means you can use the material back to reclaim the land. So that is number one. The second part of it that you are asking is that what is the community in for? Again, going back to the same background of the oil and gas sector, what I did was to ensure that any company coming to do this, we, Nasarawa State, must have a stake in it. So we go into a joint venture. For instance, you know, a company actually called Gafen, you know, and then the same company called Lidl, they came in and entered into the relationship. So the first thing I did was to say that let us have what we call a signature bonus that will come to the state and the community. So the first side, which is just about 3.5 CU, you know, they gave us $1.5 million just to get our signature of the state government and the community. So we took 1 million to the state, generally for development of the state, and then 500,000 specifically to the community. You know, and that's what we are doing, boreholes for, we asked them to select, you know, exactly what they needed. And then we are using part of the dust that is we are getting from the processing to construct some of the roads for these people. This one is even done as CSR, you know, community development by the companies, you know, that are doing this. In addition to that, the state government also have a joint venture where about 30% of the ownership of whatever is processed, whatever profit is made, comes back to the state. You know, by that, the state government can use the resources, you know, to do this. And this is beyond AA Sule, because by the time you do this, I may not longer be there 2 years from here, but the state government will continue to get those resources, and then we have extracted a law to ensure that no governor will come and say that I'm going to do that unless they get rid of the law. You know, what the state government is going to do is to continue exactly in that line so that the communities will continue to benefit from that.
Okay, now you have multiple global players who are setting up shop in Nasarawa State at the moment. How do you manage all of this competition and ensure that there's equitable benefits for the state?
Well, you do that the same thing with, again, going back to the oil and gas sector, I told you. Nigeria used to be just one acreage, you know, one oil block for Shell. You know, but if you remember, later on down the line, you know, Exxon came in, Mobil came in, Texaco came in, this and that. So you have multiple companies. Now to even compound it, now you have local companies, Consolidated Oil, Express Oil, you know, Oriental Energy Resources, you know, and so many others. So these are local companies. And this is exactly the same way we are managing it. You know, so we are managing the big companies, you know, the Gafen, the Lidl, the rest, all these big companies to come, but we are also getting local companies to register. And then we have what we call forced marriages, similar to the same thing you have in the oil and gas sector, so that a big company will have to marry a small company, you know, a local company to continue with that. But right now, the forced marriages is with the state government, you know, so the state government participates to do that. Eventually, you know, the local companies will engage in these forced marriages.
Okay, I think we've really stretched this lithium factor in Nasarawa State, but that's quite understandable because it's a revenue, it's an economic enabler for the state. But now, I would want to bring this issue of lithium within the context of insecurity. Northwest has been home for banditry for some couple of years now. And I recall that the northern governors had a meeting where it highlighted religious intolerance, the need to ban mining activities for about 6 months due to the need to have a comprehensive audit for the mining activities, and also the need for state policing. Now, bringing it back home to Nasarawa State now, how is this regional policy playing out in the inside story of Nasarawa State? Because do we really need a comprehensive audit? Do we really need to ban mining activities to get a comprehensive audit? And wouldn't this be a setback for your state that have shown a huge augury and potential for mining resource in the state? Well,
thank you very much. Let me clarify this idea about banning mining. You know, as a matter of fact, I had to clarify at the meeting when some governors suggested there should be total ban on mining. I explained to them, and let me go to the extreme. You know, for instance, if you say there is going to be total ban of mining for 6 months, that means in Nigeria, no cement production. Because for cement, you have to go and actually mine the limestone to be able to come. So you have to shut down Benue Cement, have to shut down Obajer, have to shut down Sokoto Cement. So by the time I explain that, now people realize, they say, okay, so it is not going to be total banning, it is going to be banning on selected areas where there is criminality. So that is one. Secondly, let me clarify. The state governors have no right to ban activities of that. It is a federal government activity. You know, so what we said was that we were recommending to Mr. President, you know, to ban some of these illegal activities that are ongoing, especially for where there is no processing plan, just mining, you know, for 6 months, so that we can clarify that. Now let me come home to Nasarawa State. You know, when you mention this about, you see, every state has its own peculiarities. And so in Nasarawa, all these mining activities you are hearing and all these processing activities you are hearing, they are taking place in some of the most dangerous criminal areas. So why were they taking place in such areas? Because of accessibility. You know, so there was no route between Nasarawa and Udege. So in fact, criminals could just come at any time of the day and actually commit crimes and run back to this thing. So the first thing we did before all these companies started coming was to go and construct a road, you know, between Nasarawa and Udege. Now we have extended it with resources that we are getting from the federal government. We have now extended it to say that now from Udege going to Agwada, and from Agwada now coming back to the highway going to Kefi. You see, so by doing that, you have opened the roads. That is not the first thing we did. Number two, we now discussed with federal government, and they were kind enough to come and help us to set up what we call military super camps. The military super camps brought presence of heavy military in the area, so all the bandits and the rest of that ran away. You know, and that's the only reason why you see these companies now coming up to invest $300 million, $500 million, because nobody could go and invest in a place where there is insecurity. You know, so we had to take it step by step. So that's what we did. So with the governors actually saying what we said from the northern governors, you know, it also goes from state to state, certain efforts that certain states have to do in order to reduce the banditry and to improve, you know, this mining activity and to bring the benefits to the people.
All right. Nigeria is a country that experiences fierce fights over the control of resources because it's a major revenue earner for the federal government. And so there's that assumption that the oil of the Niger Delta belongs to all Nigerians because it's been a particular resource that has been mined for, you know, many years. Now we have all these new minerals in northern Nigeria, and some say, okay, doesn't mean that these minerals now belong to northern Nigeria. So I'd like you to speak to that. What sort of arrangement exists? Because some think, why should the oil of the Niger Delta be for Nigeria, and these new ones are for particular states, and what they see now? So speak to that, please.
I think if you had maybe heard me earlier, I said that we cannot even stop, you know, activity because this is federal government activity. Every mineral belongs to the federal government. You know, the communities that are there, you know, will be beneficiaries because they are owners of the land. So the state government is also owners of the land. But as far as the minerals are concerned, whether it is oil or not oil or this and that, it belongs to federal government. Let me tell you something, since you touch oil and gas, because that's my area. All this noise about oil, this and that, today, we are only producing less than 2 million barrels. Okay? Nigeria has the capacity to produce about 2.8, 2.9, maybe 3 million barrels because of our total reserve of not more than 40 billion barrels. So that's what we're able to do. I had to this morning, looking at the analysis, and I had to go into Google to see that because I know probably such question may come up. You know, you have to take about 12 Arab nations, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, UAE, you know, and the rest of that. And then when you get the total, their total population of those 12 countries is about 240 million people. That's about the population of Nigeria. Now, what are they producing in those countries? They are producing roughly 30 million barrels of oil. Nigeria is only producing 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 today. So Nigeria is producing 1/20th, but Nigeria has the same population as these people. Okay? So that is the other area. What are they generating? They are generating more than $550 billion every year. Nigeria is actually generating 30 billion. So these are the analysis. So we are fighting on something that we don't even need to fight on. Nigeria has enough lithium right now, according to the analysis, to feed Nigeria. Not Nasarawa state, not northern Nigeria, but the whole of Nigeria. So if Nigeria now can properly utilize this oil and clearly go ahead and utilize our minerals, then this country can actually grow like all those countries we are competing. Sometimes it's funny when you have somebody that will come and say, look at Dubai, the leaders have done that. Look at, Iran. Look at Iraq. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at that. But people are not looking at the kinds of resources they are getting and the type of population that they have compared to what Nigeria has. These are the challenges. I wish you have about 2-3 hours for me so I can utilize this. Well, but these are the issues.
Just very quickly, I think one of the belief is that what we see now in terms of this mineral is that the states are more involved now in whether it's mining and the companies rather than what happened in the Niger Delta as relating to oil.
And that is correct. But we cannot continue to make the same mistake. In the Niger Delta, we have made mistake when we started in the 60s, when we were producing oil. We wouldn't say that because we made mistakes then, we have to do that. It was the late Ared Adams, who was GMD of NMPC, one of our senior colleagues, and together with some of his colleagues that started this Niger Delta Petroleum Development Company. That's when indigenous companies started participating. It was only when there was uprising, kidnapping, and the rest of that in the Niger Delta, that the federal government now set up NDDC. It started with so many other smaller, missions. So we are saying that do we now go ahead and do the same thing in northern part of Nigeria and allow these same problems again to happen before that? So that's why we say there should be production first. We were taking oil from Niger Delta, whether it was onshore, whether it was shallow water or deep water. Yet we were not reclaiming the land. We are not doing that. So now we are saying, no. Let us start with the reclamation of the land at the same time we are doing this. So is it wrong for the northern governors actually to insist on that because we are now more aware and more learned on it? I think that's just what is happening.
So I think we've spoken extensively about the lithium aspect of things, but we haven't given enough attention to this agricultural revolution that is going on at the moment. How would you say Nasarawa State is integrating all this livestock and crop farming to maximize food security as well as employment?
Thank you very much. With the aspect actually of livestock, Nasarawa State is not at the forefront. So I didn't want to, what I believe is that we should take areas of our competitive advantage and concentrate on them. So livestock we cannot be because we are not a state that is well known for that. But the area of agriculture, yes. If you look at it as far as farming of the various crops, Nasarawa State is #1 in sesame for a very long time. Nasarawa State is actually #1 now in yams. It used to be #2 after Benue. But because of the challenges in Benue, Nasarawa State is #1 now in yams. We are #5 now in rice. We are #9 now in corn. So we say, let us pick, and cassava, we are #2 in cassava. So let's pick these areas where we know that we have the competitive advantage. We have the farmers that are learned in it, they are well known. We also have the crops, and we have the seedlings, and we have the land, and we have the water. So let us concentrate in that area and participate, and that's what we are doing. So we pick the various areas that we believe. For instance, we started with rice. I say we have been encouraging people to do agriculture, rice production, but Nasarawa State had never participated. So with the improved resources, again, thanks to Mr. President, we now say, because agriculture is one area you have to be very careful. You don't see return on investment immediately. You will invest and invest and invest, and then you don't see that return quickly. And I can tell you that competitively, because I was the group managing director of the Dangote Group. All the Dangote Group companies, make money immediately, cement, this and that. But when it comes to agriculture, that's one area that return on investment is very poor. So that's how we concentrate.
Okay, many analysts have highlighted a disconnect between policy papers and public plates. And this is because they feel that government at the sub-national level, which you just inadvertently highlighted, have not been able to transit that windfall to major effective spending at the sub-national level. And you alluded to the fact that up till now, that the control of mining and even resources in the South-South is still largely under the exclusive list. So now you talked about, we talked about many of these reforms, developments. There's a need to secure it, and there's a need for state policing. So I'm just looking at why have there not been this strong advocacy from this offshoot of gun hegemony to a true fiscal federalism where the states could have a larger control of their resources, because analysts have pointed out that is the way to go. Are you sacrificing this on the altar of politics?
Well, when you say sacrificing what? You know,
yes, because you've not been able to push as hard as Nigerians want.
I have only been governor for 6 years. This debate had been going on for over 20 years. So it is not a matter of politics, it's a matter of reality. Now, I'm an engineer. I'm a practical one for that matter. So for that reason, everything I do, I try to transform, you know, what is written into practice. And that's why today, when you come to agriculture, we are at the forefront. Nasarawa State, we finished harvesting rice. We now went into an agreement with another mill that doesn't have paddy and doesn't have land. And now in the market, there is Nasarawa rice. This is Nasarawa State produce rice. That is practical. Now,
Your Excellency, you have about 10 seconds.
Well, okay, that's why I told you that some of the questions you are asking require hours, but you are asking them and you want this. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, the government is doing its best. I'm not one of those that will go ahead and play politics with reality, but when the reality comes, it will sink in.
Okay, unfortunately, okay, you can go on.
Let's go to the next questions. There's something that we normally don't focus on, which is transparency in private and foreign, whether it's mining companies or agricultural companies that are operating within Nigeria.
Yes.
So I'd like to ask you how transparent these agreements are and whether you're willing to publish them to reassure your citizens that all this is not happening at their expense.
In fact, in Nasarawa, we don't sign any agreement without the presence of the communities there. First, forget about agreement. We don't even enter into the MOU without the communities present there, without them being a party to that agreement. So that's how we enter it. Number two, we do that transparently because in Nasarawa we have what we call the BPP. We know we have transparency. It will tell you, and this you can ask the World Bank, Nasarawa is one of the states that continue to benefit for transparency and also for ease of doing business. So recently we got about 17 billion naira, you know, from the World Bank in that line, and that's what we are doing a lot of things with. So we always qualify for anything that comes to transparency and that. You know, so, and it will even be wrong for us to do anything in secret. The reason is because I'm not going to be there forever. We have to be able to do that, you know, and back them by laws. You know, that way, if we back it by law, then it's so transparent. You know, everybody, the House of Assembly is aware, our traditional institutions are aware, the communities are aware, and the ESCO of the government is aware. So we try to do as much as possible when it comes to that.
You know, one of the reasons I'm asking that is because of the illegal mining that goes on, illegal activities where money is going off, you know, out of the state or out of the country without benefiting the communities.
You are perfectly right. There is illegal activities of mining happening everywhere in Nigeria, including in Nasarawa State. I will not lie to you here that there are no illegal activities. And that's the reason why the northern governors rose to that challenge that there should be banning. But you know, when people say that, they forget that if you do a blanket banning, it affects so many other things. You know, so you are perfectly right about the illegal mining. That's why we continue to spend so much on security. You know, we and I think every state governor is spending so much on security from what I see on TV. You know, they buy vehicles for the military, for the police, for the Air Force, for this, and then they continue to provide logistics for that, you know, in order to stop it. But, you know, even in the Niger Delta, let me tell you, working in the oil and gas sector, there are instances where the security people also become, you know, a party to this corruption. Right. You know, and turn turn their faces the other direction when such things are happening. So if it is happening in the middle of the water, in the swamp, in this, then you can imagine onshore in the northern Nigeria where there is land everywhere, this will happen even more. Absolutely. And this is a reality.
Now, can you tell us what specific policies Nasarawa State has put in place to cushion its citizens against the everyday realities which have so many negative effects? Can I give you an example?
Yes,
of further? Like some of the economic reforms, such as the fuel subsidies, the fiscal changes, what does Nasarawa State have in place to cushion its citizens from these?
We go back to supporting. You see, there are the vulnerable people. Let me start from that direction. Number one thing is education. You know, we must provide education. Again, sorry, I may sound, you know, more like loving myself more when I say that I concentrate and focus on vocational and technical education and skill acquisition. This we do religiously in Nasarawa State. We do that in order to make people independent, you know, and make sure that they have the resources, they have the skill, and they have the working capital to start. This is one area. You know, we also provide the vulnerable who will not be able to do that, don't have the education, you know, provided with some kind of funding. We established some funds in the Bank of Industry for some of our youth who are coming up, you know, to ensure that they have some kind of support, you know, from there in form of loan to set up businesses and to do that. Those are all the kinds of, so there are so many of them that I can go on and on and on that we have.
Your Excellency, Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State, thank you so much for making our time to join us on live on Daybreak. Thank you very much. Your answers are quite insightful and very inspiring, and we wish you the best of luck in your efforts to transform Nasarawa State and also the ongoing lithium revolution in Nasarawa State. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Benga Ashuru. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Constance Ikoku. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.